Oh, hey there, stranger, buddy, pal. Welcome back to the channel. Coffee Create Connect, the channel where we uplift, motivate, and inspire each other and wear funky shit like pink reflective sunglasses and giant lips. So, in today's video, I will be covering the last little bit of Big Magic, the book that I have covered in the last two videos. Hopefully the light is not so bright that you can't see it. Also, before we jump into things, I'd like to show you the mug that my dogs so thoughtfully bought for me. Nice, huh? Starting next week, once Big Magic is all wrapped up, I will be covering this book, which is Creative Writer's Notebook, 20 Great Authors and 70 Writing Exercises. There's a whole list of people who contributed, so I'm not going to go through each and every one. You can find this, of course, on Amazon. I found it at Barnes & Noble. Basically, there's some advice in here from from various writers. And there's also different pages that have just lines. There's a little bit of text, and then there's room for you to write based off of the prompt, which I really like. I love books that I can write in. We also have pages like this with, some different advice, some different stories. I will read directly from the book. Not sure how much of the book I will get into, but I will definitely cover enough that you'll have a good idea of whether or not you want to purchase this book. So that'll be next week. And one last thing before we jump into the actual content. I have pulled 3 oracle cards. If you would like to stick around till the end, I will tell you what I think they mean from my own interpretation and perspective. Let's get into the good stuff. Okay, so in this part of the book, Elizabeth Gilbert talks about how when she was young, she made a vow to the universe, basically, that she would write. She talks about how she made a vow to write, and not necessarily to be a great writer or be a successful author, but she committed herself to writing, to showing up and putting the work in. And that's really all any of us can be expected to do. I can't guarantee, I can work as hard as I can, as much as I possibly have to give, I can give. And it doesn't guarantee that what I do will be successful. The only guarantee that I can promise to myself or anyone else is that I will show up and I will put the time and the work in. Whether other people receive it with open arms and love it, or whether they reject it, I can't control that. I can just show up and do the best that I can. And that's all anyone can ask of you, is that you show up and you give what you have to give. You can't focus so much on the possible outcome that you lose sight of the actual journey that you're on. I know for myself, whether my writing projects ever see the light of day, whether they ever are actually opened by another human's hands beyond my own, no matter what, I showed up, I put the work in, I took the time, I did what I said I would do. I enjoyed the process, and to me, very importantly, I learned a lot. I learned so much. When I look back on my writing from, a year or a year and a half ago, it is like another world. Not to say my writing was horrible then. I'm not going to ever be that author who knocks my old work. Absolutely not. But when I look at it and I compare it to what I'm reading now that I've written, I can see the growth. I can see the evolution. And I can see that a lot of what I have studied and the craft that I have dedicated myself to is becoming more, it's just becoming more well-rounded. It's becoming more enjoyable to read back. It's becoming more interesting. And she talked about how she never put a deadline on her dream. She never said, I have to be published by this time or I give up. Or, you know, if 100 people tell me no, then that's the end of the road for me. She vowed to continue no matter what. And I love that. I love the idea of it. My journey with creativity is not dependent on whether it makes me money or whether it makes me popular or whatever it may be. As long as I am deriving pleasure from it, as long as I feel like it is helping me grow, I will continue to do it as long as I am blessed enough to have the capacity to write and create. And she says, learning how to endure your disappointment and frustration is part of the job of a creative person. And absolutely. It is not easy to be creative, not in the way of actually creating, but in the way of sharing it with other people, going up against your own inner critic. It can be tough to stick it out, especially when you see other people being successful at the thing that you're doing, but you're not really getting any traction with it. Or, you know, you get a particularly unflattering critique, or you're just having one of those days where imposter syndrome is really breathing down your neck. It's hard to stick with it. But as creatives, if we want to do this for the long haul, if we want longevity and creativity, we have to make friends with disappointment and frustration and people not always loving what we love, what we've created. I think it gets easier the more you create. I think the more that I create, the more that I share, the older I get, the less I'm worried about, is this pleasing someone else? And the more I'm thinking, I need to make sure that this pleases me because this is my time that I'm not getting back, that I'm putting into this. So it's important that I enjoy the process. But that's the thing. If I enjoy the process and I am ultimately proud of what I've created, it doesn't matter to me as much if someone else doesn't like it, if it gets a harsh critique, if it never really goes anywhere. I can still take pride in the fact that I created this. I took nothing and made it something. Showed up and did your best. Try not to let your inner critic or, you know, perfectionism or your family or outside expectations rain on your parade. So like she says here, you don't get to just hop from bright moment to bright moment. Not every single creative session, not every single minute of every session is going to feel like, wow, I'm like in the flow. Like everything's just so natural and so easy. It's like effortless. Yeah, that happens sometimes. And it's great when it does. But it's not going to be one moment to the next to the next. On that trajectory, it's going to be like most of life, a little bit of up and a little bit of down, a little bit of to the left and a little bit to the right. We're going to turn it into a dance. But I do think she makes a good point here, where you're not, whether it's creative ventures or just life, you're not going to just hop from one amazing moment to the next with nothing in between. And we need to make peace that that's part of the process, especially if you want to do more with your life than just get by checking off like to-do lists and getting on to the next thing, going to bed and repeat and wash and repeat and wash and repeat. If you want more from life than that, you're more than likely going to encounter so-called failure, definitely frustration, definitely times you feel like giving up, certainly times where you've worked your fucking ass off only to be disappointed in the end with what the result is. I've done it with painting, writing, photography, choreographing dances, all of it. Like, I've definitely been there. The key is just to pick yourself up, have yourself a good cry if you need to, do what you need to do, and move on. It's okay to visit the dwelling of frustration, aggravation, wanting to give up. It is not okay to park your ass there and live there. Basically, in this part of the book, she talks about how she read something by a writer named Mark Manson, where he says, "What's your favorite flavor of shit sandwich?" And basically it means that no matter what you pursue, creatively or not, but especially creatively, it's going to come with some level of a shit sandwich. It's going to come with shit you don't want to do. It's going to entail some stuff that feels like absolute misery. It's going to be times where, hey, this is amazing. I love this. This aspect of this thing is great and I have so much fun with it. But this other thing sucks. And that's okay. Because no matter who you marry or get into a relationship with, every person, every pursuit, every passion comes with some shit sandwich, comes with some shit you don't want to deal with. So choose your shit sandwich. You're going to eat shit, basically, is what it's saying, no matter what. So choose your favorite flavor and just realize that there's no getting around it. So basically, what do you feel strongly enough about? What are you passionate enough about that it's worth the shit that it comes with? Thing is, plenty of people love something in theory or situation, that project enough to deal with the stuff that comes with it. So lots of people want to be writers because a lot of people have an idea that a writer just kind of, sits behind a cute little desk with some candles lit and some nice music playing, and we're just like cozy all day, just they don't see the part where you're like completely frustrated, cannot think of one fucking thing to say that seems relevant or interesting. They don't see the amount of time that it takes to put together the end product, the amount of work, the amount of sacrifice that you're like telling your friends or your spouse or whoever, whatever, no, I can't spend time with you right now because I'm writing. And then when these people realize and they actually try this thing that in theory seems so romantic or fun, some people, when they bite into the shit sandwich, they say, nope, never mind. That looked really nice from the outside, but now that I'm inside doing the work, I'm not passionate enough about it for it to be worth the sacrifice and the work. So one thing that helps me is moving my environment around. Maybe I go from my usual spot to my backyard. Sometimes I write in my bed, not often. Sometimes though, it's my dog. Sometimes I write in my kitchen table, sometimes in my living room. I have a van, like a conversion van, that's the word. So I have a little table back there. So sometimes I write in the back of the van. It's just the point of mixing up where you're creating, what you're wearing when you create, maybe mix up the music you're creating, maybe give yourself a day or two away from your usual creative project. Maybe you typically paint or write, and try something else for a day or two just to give yourself a little shake up, freshen things up a little. So here she says, the image of the tragic artist who lays down his tools rather than fall short of his impeccable ideals holds no romance for me. I don't see this path as heroic. I think it's far more honorable to stay in the game, even if objectively you are failing at the game. It's better to do that than excuse yourself from participation because of your delicate sensibilities. But in order to stay in the game, you must let go of your fantasy of perfection. In the book, she quotes Rebecca Solnit, who says, "So many of us believe in perfection, which ruins everything else, because the perfect is not only the enemy of the good, it's also the enemy of the realistic, the possible, and the fun." Perfectionism stops people from completing their work and often stops people from even beginning. And I can vouch for that. It took me a long time to create this channel because I wanted everything to be done right. And I thought, before I can start this, I need to have the perfect camera, lights, outfit. I need to know how to like add background music and do all these cool effects I see YouTubers doing. And then I realized I'll spend the rest of my life trying to figure out how to make this perfect, and it still won't be perfect. Or I can just jump in where I'm at right now, and the type of people I want to connect with are not going to judge me for not being perfect. And they'll give me grace as I grow. So she says basically, too many creators say, I am 99.8% qualified for this task, but until I master that last smidgen of ability, I will hold myself back just to be on the safe side. And that is what prevents so many people from starting to create in the first place, or from truly enjoying their creative process. And that's the reason so many people give up before they are, where they want to be as far as the things they want to create. And she puts it perfectly when she says, she says, the drive for perfectionism is a corrosive waste of time because nothing is ever beyond criticism. Can I get an amen? I mean, for real. That is some truth. No matter what you do, it's never going to be beyond someone's criticism. So you got to just keep moving forward and doing what pleases you, what feels good for you, what feels worth the time to create it for you. And so basically at the end of the day, it's like, do you want to create it imperfectly, or do you just not want to create it at all? Because that's basically the two choices, is either you create something, and because as humans, we're not perfect, we're never going to create this perfect thing that is just beyond criticism. Or do you, or are you going to be one of these people who says, like, I can't do it perfectly, or I can't do it as good as so-and-so, so I'm just not going to do it? I mean, the choice is in your hands. I know I've decided, no, I'm not good at singing, but that doesn't stop me from singing. I'm not ever going to have, more than likely, my paintings in an art gallery or my photos in some photo award show. And I doubt that I will ever be sitting up with J.K. Rowling and Elizabeth Gilbert at a dinner someday. But it doesn't stop me from writing. She also talks about how when you're doing something you're passionate about, you're generally going to be a better person all around, to the people around you. I know when I am giving myself the time and space to create what I enjoy creating, I tend to be a lot more patient, a lot more understanding. It's easier for me to give grace to other people. It's easier for me to laugh. I sleep better. I mean, it just makes me a better person than when I'm letting every demand in the book and everyone else's wants and needs strip me away from the time and space that I need to create so that I can be my best self. So I actually was not able to get to the end. I skipped over as much as I possibly could, but there's still some other things in here I would like to cover and talk about. I am going to mark the page that I'm leaving off on for Big Magic. And I will circle back around to it in a week or two, couple of weeks or so, maybe a few weeks. So before I go, I will read these 3 oracle cards. So we have wait for important information. Wait for important information. Great adventure. Take a risk. Venture forward. And last we have Shalom Master. Be graceful in movement and action. So I think this is saying there's something, so it's saying venture forward. There's a great adventure ahead. There's a great opportunity ahead. However, before you sign anything, cement anything in, make a final decision, make sure you have the information that you need to have to make an informed decision. It's saying also to be careful of how you approach people and situations, how you word things, to be graceful in your speech and your actions. So now is a time to move forward, absolutely, but tread, I don't want to say tread carefully, but kind of be aware. Don't make, I guess, sudden decisions, sudden impulsive. Don't act on impulse, I guess, is part of what this is saying. So that is my interpretation of it. If you have another interpretation, I would love to hear that. I think I have covered just about everything. And speaking of covered, I know in my last video, my Starry Night photo here was covered by a piece of paper, which happens to be this paper, which happens to be a drawing I made when I was a very young kid. And that's me on top of the world with all the stars around and the rocket ship on top. And, or no, I'm sorry, that was the moon. That was the moon. And it says, I made it. So that's the kind of, I keep this because I want to remind myself of the confidence I had in creating and just being before the world and society kind of washed a lot of that away. I want to always bring myself back to that place of I made it. And I don't need someone else to validate that. I can just say it and mean it for myself. So I do think that is it. Thank you so much for your time as always. If you would like to see a certain topic covered, let me know. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. And that's it. I'll see you on the next one. Until next time, take care.